Okay, I'm Buff Carmichael. Moved to Illinois from Texas in 1992. Moved to Springfield in 1993.
All right. All right. You used to be the publisher of the Prairie Flame.
Right.
What can you tell me about that newspaper?
Well, I came here from Dallas, and we had a local LGBT newspaper plus a statewide news magazine. And every Thursday I'd go somewhere and pick up all the latest news. And I moved to Illinois and I couldn't get any news. And I kept trying to I ran across well-trained journalists in the area and tried to talk them into starting something. They were all too smart to do that. And so I finally reached the point, I said, oh, well, what the heck, I'll do it. And so we started Prairie Flame in 1996 and closed it down in 2008.
What was the reason for it closing down?
Right at the end of the Bush administration, the beginning of the recession, I think advertisers are extremely stupid to, when you come to hardship, the first thing they cut is advertising, when actually the smart thing to do is increase advertising, but they don't ever seem to do it that way. And it reached the point that we had been losing money forever, but when we didn't have enough ad sales to pay the print bill, if we had to at least cover the print bill in order to stay afloat. And so we just decided that was a good time to shut it down. So.
Well, what was it like running that? Because especially in an environment where you're not in the gay meccas like Chicago, where they have such a huge gay media scene.
It was a labor of love. We did it because we wanted to do it, and I made a lot of friends through doing it. It was sort of a one-horse show, and certainly Jerry was a big part of it. And certainly I had people who were participants, who were all volunteers. There was no paychecks issued except for a couple of columnists that I subscribed to, but other than that, we got one news story one time after 9/11. I got from one of the freelancers, and Rex, you know.
Oh, I know who you're talking about, and I just completely spaced his last name.
Anyway, he kept sending me teasers, and I kept telling him if I ever buy anything, I'll buy it from you. And he published his 6th version before the sun went down that night. So
Rex Walkner, I think his name.
Rex Walker, yeah, yeah.
Was there anything you were especially proud of, or that you really
yeah.
especially liked with the Flame?
Well, my favorite part of doing it was the actual delivery of, I had a full-time job, and I'd take one day a month off and we'd hit the printer about 6 o'clock in the morning, and they'd print the paper while I was eating breakfast, and I'd head for Peoria and drop off, and head for Livingston and drop off, and by the time I got home, we had papers through most of the state, and then we'd ship a few UPS. And so that was just going all the places and seeing all the people, and had to keep going and running as fast as we could to get it done. And I was real proud of several of the things that we covered, in that when Obama announced his campaign, we had our press credentials and were in place for the announcement.
Nice.
12 degrees that morning, but and a lot of things that happened that was just and we got some awards for what we did, and so ACLU and Equality Illinois both gave us awards, and So, there's a whole lot to be proud of.
I hope to do as well.
You probably will. You probably will.
What, you said you moved to Springfield in 1992. What brought you here?
Okay, well, I had gone through a very nasty divorce, and it kept getting nastier and nastier, and I had wound up in a downward spiraling job situation, and I had a chance to promote from a lousy job in Dallas to a not quite so lousy job in Illinois. And I came here and met Jerry after I got here, and then moved to Springfield in order to be with him and to get away from a nasty job. And so I did temp work here until I got on to the state. So.
Could you tell me a bit more about Jerry?
Oh boy.
If it's not comfortable, it's fine.
No,
but...
there's more to tell than you've got time for. Jerry was a fairly small member of the community in a sense of he hung around the bars, he knew everybody, he never was really a participant. He wasn't he knew about the local organizations, but he didn't go. He was aware of what was going on, but it just really didn't much pertain to him. And when he and I met, I wanted to get involved in things, and he knew the people. And so I could never have worked my way into this community as well as I did without his knowledge. And he'd go along because I wanted to go. And right after we got here, there was a guy whose name I've totally forgotten, who wanted to start an organization, and he was determined the name of the organization would be ESM, Equality for Sexual Minorities. And he ran an ad in the paper to get people together for a meeting. And there was about 100 of us went to a meeting. And we all sort of set up this organization on briefest possible way. And the next thing he wanted to do is rent the county fairgrounds, Sangamon County Fairgrounds at New Berlin, and stage a statewide gay state fair of Illinois 6 weeks after starting the organization. And when we started telling him, this isn't going to happen, you can't do that. And he started getting his feathers all in an uproar. And there was an organization that had previously existed. There was a statewide organization called Illinois Gay and Lesbian Task Force, EagleTIF, and they had branch chapters. And there had once been a chapter in Springfield, which was Central Illinois Gay and Lesbian Task Force, or SEAGLTIF, we called it. And the board members from SEAGLTIF came to ESM and says, we're dormant, we've just stopped meeting altogether. If you want to do this, why don't you take our name and our bylaws and our bank account and go, a lot of your work's done for you. And all of us except the one guy thought that was a great idea, and he said, I'm going to take my ball and go home. And so he left us, and we tried really hard to get SEAGLTIF going. And in fact, we kept it going about 4 years. And so that got me involved a little bit, and then trying to get SEAGLTIF, SEAGLTIF called for a male and female co-chair, except we were an all-male organization, and I was out knocking on every lesbian's door I could knock on to try to get women involved in it, and nobody wanted to. And so but then a group put on a program at the YWCA called a Workshop on Racial Healing. And they identified racism as a disease, and we're going to cure it. And I called them and said, are you just dealing with racism, or are you dealing with sexism and homophobia and things of that nature? Oh no, we want to cover it all. Okay, Jerry and I'll be there. And so for 13 weeks we went every Monday night and talked about the various isms. And and then we had a program, very, very important program in town, Coalition to Promote Human Dignity and Diversity. We tried to get representatives from the various outlying communities to the table on a monthly basis. And I got involved with that. And they were involved in putting on they wrote a program for the school district to promote race and religion acceptance across the various barriers. And I had the opportunity to serve on that committee and says, nope, I don't think so. And then it came out there was not one single word about sexual orientation in that whole program that they developed. School board immediately said, yep, that's what we want, stamped it, approved. And then the backlash started, and all of a sudden they were reconsidering it. It's people were coming in town from all over the country to tell us it was a stepping stone for teaching homosexuality in the schools. And I started going to meetings and stuff, and then it came out in the paper that somebody wrote a letter to the editor saying that representatives of the gay community stood up at the meeting and said that was their intent, that they wanted to do that. And I wrote an op-ed piece for the paper. I says, seems funny to me that, to the best of my knowledge, I was the only gay person at the meeting. And the person who wrote the letter wasn't at the meeting. And I didn't say anything of the sort, and nobody else did. And I says, what I did say, and what I continue to say, is that from my contacts within the lesbian gay community, I don't know of anybody that doesn't think decreasing the amount of hate in society would be a good thing. And so one thing led to another. I got my name in the paper a few times for being Springfield's only openly gay person. I mean, there have been gay people here for as long as there have been people here. For some reason, the closets were so strong that I was sort of the one that stood up and said, okay, you want to take my picture? Here I am.
What's it been like? I mean, Central Illinois is not as friendly as other parts of the state. What's it been like, especially as...
I'm sure I agree with you on that.
Please change.
Well, I mean, everybody who's been mayor since I've been here has called me by name. When we was doing Seagletiff, we didn't have a place to meet. There was no Phoenix Center at the time or anything like that. And I would call somebody and say, somebody at the county building, and say, do you have a meeting room we could use? No, we don't normally do that. What do you want to have? And well, we're Central Illinois Gay and Lesbian Task Force, so we're just looking, we need to have a meeting, and we was wondering if we could use a room there on a Thursday night. Who did you say you were? Central Illinois Gay and Lesbian Task Force? Yeah, you can come meet here. I mean, they had heard so much about New York and Chicago and Boston about riots and upset all the nasty publicity when gay people were discriminated against, and they'd always heard we was coming, and now we were here, and they just wanted to keep me quiet, you know, just, oh, you want a meeting room? Sure, come on down, have a meeting room.
A little scared, perhaps?
Maybe. We had a bar downtown. It was 2 doors from the station house. And it had a very professionally done front door that said, "This is a straight bar." And we had an interim police chief at the time. He was not police chief. And I got him to meet me down there one day and told him, I said, "What would you do if that said this is a white bar?" He said, "We'd take their license off and close them down." And what if it said this is a Gentile bar? Same difference. I says, "What can you do about that?" And he says, "There's nothing I can do about it." He says, "We don't like it. There's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing on." And so I started in trying to get an ordinance passed, and others joined with me. I don't mean to say I did it all by myself. We formed a group and we asked and demanded and were told no and went back and asked again. And it just, we even had beer distributors refusing to take beer to the place unless he took the sign down. One time we had the mayor speaking to a forum, and I took a picture of the door and blew it up to 20 by 40 and put it on an easel next to where she had to stand to speak. So that she had to stand right next to it. And she stood there and told us that as long as I'm mayor, there will not be an ordinance protecting gays and lesbians from discrimination. She was still the mayor when they called wanting to pass the ordinance. So I didn't call them, they called me. And I says, "It's not me. It's a group of us. They wanted me to come down and present my ordinance. I'll put together a committee." And so we put together a committee and passed the ordinance. So the same mayor that had assured us it would never happen. So, and I have to say she's a friend of mine today. She's no longer mayor, but she and I, over a period of time, we learned to work together. So.
Yeah, especially in the past few years, there's been a lot of legal advancements for the community. LGBTQ history is now being taught in schools. State Medicaid will pay for transgender health care. We have a statewide human rights ordinance. Marriage was passed by the legislature and not a court like most states. Did you ever think you might see that in the state?
When they first started talking about marriage, I've been wrong as many times as I've been right. When they first mentioned that all of the rights we were seeking would be automatically there if we had the right to marriage. Let's give up on everything else and go for marriage. And I says, it's a big mistake. It's the little triumphs that keep us going. Let's keep going, taking the little bits as we can, and instead of trying to gobble the whole thing down in one fell swoop. I couldn't have been more wrong. It worked out very well over a period of time, but it took a while to convince me that it was possible.
Just in plus everything else, we've accomplished a lot in this state.
Right. Well, I remember Jerry and I got married in 2014 when it became legal in Illinois. And in 2015, my high school was having our 50th year reunion. And so Jerry and I headed for Texas for a class reunion, and because Texas is often talking about seceding from the Union, and because Texas hadn't passed marriage equality yet, and we took our powers of attorney, we took our passports, we took our marriage license, we took all the documentation with us that we could possibly need in case anything went wrong. But we were legally married in Illinois, Missouri, even Oklahoma. Get to Texas, we weren't married anymore. So it was a little bit of a scary situation.
What do you think has been the biggest challenge the community has had up to this point?
Closets,
Really?
really.
You want to expand a little bit on
Well,
that?
I mean, as soon, I'll give you something else controversial. AIDS has, for all of the blessings of the people that we've lost, how do I say that? Of all of the loss we've suffered, for wonderful people that have died, I'm not discrediting or downplaying that in any way. But when you stop and think that people used to say, I think I met a gay person one time. And it was really as a result of AIDS that everybody says, oh, I know 15 or 20. And AIDS did more to bring us out of our closets. And every time one person comes out of the closet, one more person feels, maybe I can too. And one more person decides maybe suicide's not the answer. I think closets have been our biggest problem.
Actually, I could see that. I just wanted you to expand a little bit about it. The next new generation, there's now a generation of activists who actually don't remember the first wave of the AIDS crisis. And yet sometimes I'll hear some people my age and older going on about how they don't appreciate what our generations went through. Do you have a response to that, what do you think about what the next generation of queer people are going to be facing?
Well, I've got a lot of different viewpoints on it. For one thing, we must ever remain vigilant. There was never a place that had better gay rights than 1920s and 30s Germany, and it got reversed so quick. And we need to make sure that our younger generation knows that every right you have had to be fought for and has to be preserved. I think it's wonderful that a kid in high school today, at least in some places, can say, yep, I'm gay, and not get beat up after school. At my high school reunion, a classmate of mine came over to me and said she just wanted to thank me and others like me who have done so much. She said her grandson went to college. His first day as a freshman in college, one of his classes asked everybody to stand up and tell a little bit about themselves. And he said he stood up and said, I'm an out and proud openly gay man. And she says, I know without your generation and the people of our generation, she's the same age as me, that would not have been possible. And that feels good inside, you know. So.
Oh yeah. A little less high level. You're also active in a lot of other organizations. I know you're active in Coral, and for if anyone who listens to this doesn't know, the Coalition of Rainbow Alliances. Right. How did you get involved with that?
With all the different organizations in town, there was frequently conflict between two different organizations had something scheduled at the same time, not knowing that somebody else had something planned that night. And I had said several times that we really needed a coordinating organization, somebody that would have a representative, a liaison I called it, from each organization, come together and compare calendars and work together. And everybody said, oh no, we don't want anybody over us, we don't want anybody telling us what we can do. I learned not to use the term umbrella because nobody wanted an umbrella. I started using, okay, I want a gutter organization that is under everybody else, but just gets information from everybody else. And so one day we were planning something at the Phoenix Center. And after that, in those days, the Phoenix Center was right over by Gabatoni's. And so after we finished planning whatever it was, we walked down to Gabatoni's and had dinner. And this woman from Phoenix Center says, we've had just a great day. We've all worked together. We've gotten all this done today, and it's just, we need to do this on a regular basis. And I said, I've been saying that for ages. And so the Phoenix Center actually scheduled the meeting. I could tell you a different version of that, but anyway, the meeting was set for a certain hour and time and place, according to the Phoenix Center. Actually, the place they said it would be was closed at that time, and none of them showed up, but we all met there anyway, and then we went down the street to Rock and Roll Hardee's, and sat there and talked about the idea, and I think the next meeting was at Prairie Flame, and that's where Jerry's actually the one that came up with the name. Was looking for a name for it, and so I'd say Larry Devasell and Larry Lane and Jim Barr and Jerry and I are probably the primary people that set it up to start with, and it quickly grew to more than that. So.
All right, I'm trying to think of these else. You've also been involved in some, I know you were involved with the March on Springfield for Marriage Equality, and you've gotten attention from as far away as Chicago, and they don't pay attention to anything outside. So what's it been like when you've been working on at a state level?
Great, really. The summer that we thought we would have marriage equality and didn't, 2013. We all thought it would pass at the end of the session in May of 2013, and it didn't. And there was a bunch of talk around Chicago about taking things under our own control and doing some rioting or something like that in Springfield. And Tracy Bain, I think deserves the credit for saying, we need to take this energy and channel it some way so as not to do harm with it. And she put together a committee of 13 people, including herself. And I was the only one down here, but she knew she needed a leg person to, go around the buildings and ask for the permits and stuff like that. So that was the function I filled in it. And I think Tracy and Jean were the principal people from Chicago. Certainly they had people that were helping them there. And we put together quite a number of people to help here. And we put all together, and then right about that same time, Equality Illinois was sending me out places to get petitions signed. And so it was a very, very busy summer for me. Luckily I was retired by then, and Jerry and I went to gay rodeos and strip clubs and anywhere we could find people to get petitions signed and get people active and involved. And the March on Springfield was a fantastic way of accomplishing that. So,
is there anything you'd like the Central Illinois gay community to know and remember just about what we're still fighting for and working for?
we're, I think we are trying to be noticed in the hopes that someday we won't be noticed. When the time comes when I'm a person, not a gay man. When it doesn't matter who you're in love with or who you're sleeping with or who you're married to, it matters that you perform this function in the community. And when we have to become more important in order to become less important. Does that make sense?
It does to me. Okay, and last question. How would you like to be remembered?
I don't think I've done anything that anybody else couldn't have done. I don't have any magic. When you see something that needs to be done, go do it. And the other thing is, gee whiz, I found just a whole bunch of people that were so happy to be a part of it and help with it. I couldn't have done it without them. And to have people, you know, I remember one year, police department wanted some people to come to their diversity training program to talk about how police should deal with gay people in their day-to-day activities. And the way they did it, they had a whole month, Monday through Friday, we had to be out there at 7 a.m. Every police officer in town could pick any day they wanted to, but some morning you're going to have to be out there at 7 a.m. And so Peggy Poole and I went out there every morning and talked about being gay. And 3 or 4 years after that, every time I walk into a restaurant, some policeman would come over, "Hi, Buff, how you doing?" The things we've done have been so neat in the opportunities I've had to get to know people and to get to be known by people and to try to get across that I'm just a person just like they are.
Well, thank you.
Mm.